The thing in this bag is probably the least interesting, least sexy piece of camera equipment, but it's probably an essential that you probably shouldn't go without. Today we're going to talk about the Manfrotto 1 tripod, a tripod system that could do a lot of things for photographers, hybrid shooters, and also a category of camera equipment that I feel like is essential for 95 or 99% of people. Now, this video is going to be sponsored by Manfrotto, so at best this is going to be a showcase of everything the tripod legs and the tripod head can do, but also at the same time, there may be a situation, a conversation around investing in a tripod so you only have to buy it once instead of buying 5 different cheaper tripods, which I've done, which actually cost more money than getting one of these guys. We'll get there. Now, there are 2 different types of tripod legs you can get with the Manfrotto 1. There's aluminum and carbon fiber if you have a ton of money, but I just have the aluminum one. Now, there's more than one reason why this is called the Manfrotto 1, but the first one's going to be this. Okay, so all I have to do is just kind of release 1, release 2, release 3. They're a little bit stiffer, but that's actually kind of a good thing to be secure. And we have a fully extended tripod with only 1 latch. Now, in other video-centric tripods, a thing that's a little bit annoying is that oftentimes there's a 2-latch system in order to fully extend it. Well, on the Manfrotto 1, you only have to use 1 latch in order to fully extend the tripod up to about 5 feet 9 inches, which means that this is pretty much about Cam Mackey height. Now, for someone who's not a short king or you're filming an interview with an NFL wide receiver, you could also fully extend this a bit higher than 5'9" by using the center column in order to do that. Now, typically I don't shoot with people taller than I am, and for reference, I'm 6'1", but this is also a great way to get a high angle shot in a fairly quick amount of time. And if you're somebody with a big latissimus dorsi, then this shot might actually help you out a little bit. Now, as I mentioned before, if you're somebody with an enlarged latissimus dorsi, or maybe you just have a great rhomboid or a big back, as the kids would say it. Well, one, maybe a caloric deficit would help, and I'm working on that as well. But also, if you want to try to play around with angles, maybe you're a bit self-conscious, getting a high angle shot on a wide angle lens also helps out a little bit. There's 2 things at play here. For one, obviously the tripod's pretty high up. This is about like 6'4", which is a little bit taller than myself, which creates this kind of down look. But also on a wider angle lens, you could use things like perspective distortion, which means that if I move close to a wide angle lens, my face is gonna look way bigger than the rest of my body, which also includes this waistline that I have to work on shrinking. So if you're somebody who maybe feels a little bit self-conscious in terms of shooting yourself, whether it be in your office or out in the field, trying a high angle shot on a wide angle lens might actually help you out a little bit. But also, so does cardio and eating vegetables. Now, another shot that I like doing with wide angle lenses, and it also gets on people's nerves, is doing the complete opposite of going all the way up, but taking this down. There's a little latch at the bottom here. I slide out one of these guys on here, and then I can go into a low mode. Each one of these legs has a switch on them, so if you want to get a low angle down to the ground type of shot, it's incredibly easy. For one, I'm just gonna kind of, and I can put this all the way down to the ground, and I can get a low angle shot using a wide angle lens, which is really fun for me, but also maybe annoying for some other people. And this is what they mean by a low angle shot. I can go all the way to the ground, I can put my camera down, I'm still shooting on 18mm, but it gives you width, but at the same time an interesting perspective because most tripods can't get this low, but Lil Jon can. Tripod leg also has a really easy way of being able to balance your tripod head, which we'll talk about in a second, by just pulling up one of these latches, and you can move things around to make sure that you're balanced. Now, one thing that's annoying for me is sometimes I have a big camera rig and I can't see the bubble level, which becomes inconvenient, but this one actually turns 180 degrees. So if I need to see things better, I just gotta flick one of those guys and it's good to go. And if you're someone that shoots in a variety of different terrains, there's little feet at the bottom of the tripod that you can remove in order to get that little spike in case you're shooting on grass, sand, or anything else where you might need where that is. I don't use it that often, but I figured that out by accident by poking myself, so I figured I'd tell you that to just be aware that there's a sharp object built into here. You're also gonna have a hook in order to put a sandbag or a backpack to weigh down the tripod, and a mounting point as well that you can convert to a 1/4-20 if you wanna put things like magic arms or other accessories. Now, I've talked a surprising amount about tripod legs. I didn't think I could actually do that, but now we gotta talk about this. Now, the tripod legs does have a 33-pound payload, which means that I can fit things as big as my Ursa Cine 12K. However, this guy's a little bit smaller, but also has a lot of functionality, and this is the 500 tripod head, part of the Manfrotto 1 system. Now, the Manfrotto 1 also does have a quick release exchange system, which we'll kind of get into a bit later, but this guy has a lot of different features for hybrid shooters, photographers, or people that predominantly shoot video. I'm gonna put this back on the tripod. Give me a second, hang on. Now, this tripod head has pretty much all the standard things. You could rotate this back and forth if you want to do some pans. You also could unlock this if you want to do some tilts, but another rotation switch that's going to be on here as well is the counterbalance, which adds a little bit more resistance or counterbalances your rig in order to make your tilt a lot more smooth. You're also going to be able to side load into this tripod as well on that Manfrotto plate, and there's a gray locking switch that makes things a lot easier. And also when you want to take things off, you just kind of flick this over here, and then it's pretty easy to do. And then when you just put it back in whenever you want to, lock that in, and that's probably not gonna go anywhere. But all of those are pretty much very standard Manfrotto tripod things, except when you can do this. If you're somebody that might feel a little bit of FOMO from not having open gate, although I recommend having open gate, it's great, you could actually put this into vertical mode without taking off the tripod, switching plates, and doing a whole bunch of other stuff that takes a lot longer to do. Some people do mention that on shoots, sometimes they'll shoot in horizontal, then they'll shoot in vertical directly after, and being able just to kind of press a little button and then just doing that is a lot quicker than having to make entire vertical rigs. If you're someone who also maybe just has a bare bones camera and you want to go from shooting a YouTube video to shooting something for Instagram or social media, you could do that as well. All right, and a bonus thing that's going to be on here is if I leave this unlocked, I put my center column all the way up, this locks into place, but there's a little button directly under it where I could push it a little bit higher up, and I could go for a top-down shot. Now, I could also lock this in, I could secure this guy, and that way, things are gonna be a little bit easier in terms of getting top-down shots instead of using C-stands or other things in order to get there. Now, you could also use that little hook I mentioned before to weigh things down, and I could use a backpack in order to do that. And if you're someone that gets top-down shots for YouTube videos or other content, you're able to do this, and if I loosen this up, you could actually turn this a full 360 degrees. Now, we are going to talk briefly about the tripod exchange system. This is a quick release system in order to get your tripod legs or any other accessories that are compatible in order to get on and off things fairly quickly. For example, we're going to use a slider. Now, say for example, you actually buy one of these guys separately, this is going to be another exchange system. You can actually mount this guy on your slider from top and bottom, and you could use that quick release system to mount on the Manfrotto 1 tripod legs. Now, keeping in mind, it's a 33-pound payload, so smaller sliders are going to be able to get there fairly easily. And then what you can do is you can mount on the second part of that quick release system, mount it on top of the slider, and that way you have an easy quick release system whenever you need a slider shot. Now, slider shots in general are really good for things like products or establishing a scene or doing a character reveal, and being able to do that in a really quick way, especially through short distances without using a dolly slider, is a great cost-effective and also fast way of doing things. And you could also pick up one of these bags, and shout out to Manfrotto for actually sending this over. This is the Pro Light tripod bag. It's going to be able to fit your tripod and all the other accessories. It also has 2 handles on each end and 1 across the middle to make transporting a tripod a lot easier, instead of me just throwing it at the back of my car. I did mention that this is going to be on the more affordable tripod side of things, and if you're looking at the price tag, you're getting a little bit of sticker shock. I'm gonna kind of go over some of the other tripods I've used before that I've currently thrown out, and if I had just bought one of these guys instead of the other 3 to 4 to 5 of them, I actually might have saved a bit of money. Okay, so I was gonna do a price comparison between the Manfrotto 1 and some of the other tripods, but in a sponsored video format, I feel like that might be like a touch inappropriate, but basically what I'm gonna say is the Manfrotto tripod with the head is gonna be about $679. Now, before you get onto sticker shock, one thing I'm going to say is try going on Amazon, searching through some of the video tripods, and you might see some things that are going to be like $200, $250, even $300. A tripod, whether you use it 10% of the time or 90% of the time, and honestly, I think a lot of people are going to use tripods a lot more than they think they do, having something that's going to last actually might exceed the cost of buying 3 tripods that are $300 versus just 1. No pun intended. Now, it's kind of hard to actually showcase that because I've just thrown out the tripods that have broken on me in the past, but for the most part, all of those were the ones I tried to cheap out on. There's some camera equipment that you probably shouldn't cheap out on and some things that you could save money on, but something that you like to spend the money on to have it last is going to be things like C-stands, going to be things like lights, and as well as tripods. As long as someone doesn't break into your car and steal any one of the 3 of them. That being said, a special shout out to Manfrotto for sponsoring this video, and if you guys want to check out the Manfrotto 1, I'll leave it down in the description down below. But also if you want, sound off in the comment sections which tripod are you using. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.